Welcome participants in the 2024 Ride for the Reserve. We are so excited about this year's ride, especially after we were unfortunately in a position of canceling last year's ride because the skies opened up exactly at that day. And we have a number one priority here, and that is to keep you all safe. But here we are on an extraordinarily beautiful day today. We're going to give you a reveal of the ride and some information that we hope will be helpful to you. We are traveling under a mission, and that is to build affection for this remarkable place, the Montgomery County Agricultural Reserve, 93,000 acres of farms, forests, fields that provide so much to not only the county but the region. We are embarking on this ride with support from many, not just you, but volunteers. We have a coordinator this year that you'll meet in a minute, Mindy McWilliams, and of course my able coworker Christina Bostic, and board members who are chipping in to help as well. So here we are. Buckle yourself up for a reveal. Know that we are going to be here to answer any questions you may have. As to MCA's work, for those of you who aren't familiar, our website is full of information, social media as well. And again, feel free at any time to contact us with any questions about issues relating to the reserve or resources that you might find, including historic venues and farms, et cetera, in the reserve. I wanted to say that Labor Day weekend, my family and I took a ride on the roads that you'll be traveling on, and I was struck by the extraordinary, both natural and productive beauty of the place. There were fields of sorghum that were ripening, fields of corn that were tall, and yet I have to note troubled by the drought that we've had this year. But I think you'll find it, for those of you who are new to the ride, just an extraordinary getaway and connection with place. And for those of you who have been here before, it's always different and always exciting. And so again, thank you so much for joining us this year. And now I'm going to pass it along to Mindy McWilliams.
Hi, I'm Mindy McWilliams. I'm thrilled to be the coordinator for this year's Ride for the Reserve, the 17th annual. It's going to be a great day filled with routes of 6 to 62 miles on the Ag Reserve's rustic roads. We're very excited this year. If you could do the next slide. Thank you to our sponsors. Without them, this day would not be possible. We'd like to thank Heritage Montgomery once again for sponsoring, Sugarloaf Citizens Association. We have Kingsbury's Orchard. David Riss Photography is back. Locals Farm Market, which is where there will be a stop. There'll be cookies there. We have Wegmans, Gail Lee Homes, K2 Cafe, Bike Doctor, Tony Corber Real Estate, and we thank them all. We appreciate each and every one. So the registration that includes the picnic closes at 11:59 p.m. on September 12th. But walk-ups are fine. If you know someone who wants to show up at the last minute that morning, they pay the day of pricing. It doesn't include a picnic, but they are able to ride. On the day of, you just park, check in, and then go grab your bike. If you could go to the next one. Mm-hmm. There's two ways to join your riders at the picnic. If there's, you can have a just picnic ticket, or volunteers would also be able to have lunch, and we do have SSL hours. The pop-up market starts at 11 o'clock. We have over 20 vendors this year. We're bringing the artisans and the produce from the reserve to you. It's free and open to the public, so spread the word. Let everybody know about the market. Have your friends meet after the ride. There'll be a food truck, Mexican authentic food, and ice cream and dessert truck. It's going to be a lot of fun with local produce, arts, plants. There'll be a face painter. So spread the word and come on out to the pop-up market afterwards. And we would just like to say a big thank you. Your support for the MCA really matters. And we encourage everyone to share their rides, share their photos with hashtag Ride for the Reserve. Be safe, wear your helmets, have fun. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to email me at ride@mocoalliance.org.
Well, thank you, Mindy. And I am Christina Bostic. I'm thrilled to work for Montgomery Countryside Alliance. We are now moving on to the route section, what you came here for. And we are offering the pre-recorded portion of the routes from last year, as we have kept those the same from the ride that we were unable to do because of the cyclone conditions last year. Before we travel back in time, wanted to just share a few notes. In the reveal that you'll see from henceforth, it says 7:45 is when registration opens. We will not be opening registration until 8. We don't want anyone to leave before 8 because our stops won't be set up. Those of you going on lead rides, that's anything under a 34-mile ride, understand that they leave at staggered times, which will be shown. You want to show up 30 minutes before that time to make sure you get in, get everything set up, and are ready to go when your ride lead is ready to go. I wanted to let our registered riders know what the next step is on getting your hands on these routes. They will come in 3 flavors, all by email. We will have cue sheets. Those are printed pieces of paper for the analog among us with turn-by-turn directions. You can clip those right to the front of your bike. We have Ride with GPS, an app that you can download that will give you turn-by-turn directions. For those of you who have a bike computer, there will be GPX files for you. Ride with GPS, one other note, we find this a useful tool, and we pay for you to have a Ride with GPS app that is free. So when you go into the app, unless you want to on your own, please do not pay for premium. The free version is fine. You will be able to access everything about the rides and the routes. I will say also, notoriously spotty internet in the Ag Reserve. So when you do get that Ride with GPS link, consider downloading those routes to your phone offline, and our email will list everything about how to do that. Don't worry. We will also be on hand that day with QR codes that you can just scan to get those routes as well. So what comes henceforth is a pre-recorded. If you have questions and answers that we do not address in what is coming here, please do get in touch, ride@mocoalliance.org. Again, we are so thrilled to have you here, and we're looking forward to a really great ride. So this is the wavy lines going back in time.
Almost wavy lines. I'm so sorry to add one more thing in that I neglected to at the beginning, and that is, I know that all of you are well-versed on riding along these roads. And if I'm wrong, and some of you aren't, let me just cue you in that we have various folks using these roads, especially at this time of year. We have people in the agricultural community bringing in their harvest with large equipment. We have equestrian riders that are sometimes along the roads. We have other bicycle rides, either planned or folks just out on the road. We have hikers, and we have an abundance of wildlife that you really need to keep an eye out for. The deer that seem to be already starting in their rut. other mammals, both cute and not so cute. I'll leave that at that for now. Not a big groundhog fan, but in any case, just keep your eyes peeled, ride courteously on the road. We have had such great success with the safety of everyone for now coming up 17 years. And I know this year will be successful too. Now the wavy lines.
So I'm going to let Vivian Benazzi, our ride chair and one of our lead riders, take it away from 2023. And we thank her and all of our ride leads, all of our volunteers, all of our sponsors, and all of you for making this year excellent. So thank you.
Right, can you see that? Great. Thanks, Christina, and thanks, Carolyn. Looking forward to another year of the ride. Thank you for the invite to come back. So everyone, I'm Vivian Benazzi. I'll be the ride coordinator again this year. I'm actually a resident of the reserve. I'm a cyclist. I've been riding here for almost 20 years, and I'll be one of the ride leaders on here. So what I'm going to present now is personal views of the reserve that I've been actually checking out over the last couple of weeks, so I can give you the best idea of what the routes are going to look like and the quality of the roads and any issues, because as Christina said, we want people to have a good time and have a safe ride. And we live in an area with active farms, so there's gravel, there's trucks, there's a few things coming around, and I want everyone to be as safe as possible. Couple of housekeeping things here. So the link to this Ride Reveal Zoom session will be posted by Christina tomorrow, I believe, and it'll be on the website and be sent to registrants. So I'd also like to reach out to those who celebrate Rosh Hashanah and wish them a Shana Tova as well. I realize that the timing of this was probably not the best, but we will record this obviously and we'll share that with those as well. So this is where the event will be this year. This is Linden Farms. I wanted to give a picture of it, also because the red barn right there in the center is where we have all our check-ins, and I'll point to that a little bit later, but also to give people a view of the beautiful place we'll be riding from. So let's talk about the actual ride itself. These are all paved rides through the reserve, and all rides start and end at Linden Farms. There's two types of rides we're going to have. One that will have ride leaders and sweeps, that is supported rides for those that for the shorter rides, and I'll explain a little bit more about what those are a little bit later. The ride lengths this year will be 5.3, 17.7, 26.2 for those that are supported rides, and for the self-guided rides, these will be the longer rides, 34, 41.3, and 62.6. I guess it's the scientist in me that wants the details in here, but I think when people are riding long miles, they want to know exactly if it's more 26 or more 27. So I'm just adding those in here. All right. Again, just iterating safety, bike safety. Please ride a mechanically sound bike. It's really important that the bikes are truly mechanically sound because we want you to have a safe time on the roads. So that means obvious things like brakes, tires, gears, and your chain in good working order. And please have the ability to carry at least one bottle of water, if not two. It really does help. Even on the short rides, a sip of water can go a long way. Suitable bikes for this ride. Road bikes are the most suitable. You can have a couple of different widths, but I recommend not probably wider than about 32. Hybrid bikes with street tires are fine too. Recumbents are fine. If you have e-bikes, that's fine as well, but I would suggest that where some of the shorter rides won't be riding very fast, so just be aware of that. You're certainly welcome to ride mountain bikes and fat tire bikes. You can do that, but you'll get a pretty rigorous workout because they have quite a lot of traction on the roads. These are all paved roads, so really road bikes will do the best here. Please ride with a helmet. I believe our registration requires this as well. Ride with an approved helmet and make sure that it's not 200 years old. We want these things to be effective and protective. And I think the other one we want to say is please pick a ride that's suitable to your current fitness and biking abilities. As Christina was saying, if you wake up in the morning and you just don't feel like you want to ride that 26 and you want to do 17, we can accommodate that. Do what you feel comfortable with, not what you picked maybe 2 weeks ago or a month ago if you signed up. we're able to accommodate on the day, and we'll explain a little bit more about what that will be as we go through this. Just a shout out to Bike Doctor as well. We'll have a bike mechanic available from the start of the event, and he's always been incredibly busy when people turn up, just checking their bikes, and there's always something that goes on. So we're very grateful to have Bike Doctor there. We will have some SAG available. That will be in our notes for our cue sheets. So we are able to provide some of that to ensure safety, and also to find out if something does go wrong, we can find a way to get people back. I'd like to talk a little bit about the riding in the reserve and the roads that we have. This is an agricultural reserve that has active farms. The routes that I've picked are mostly on quiet rural farm roads, but the roads are all paved, but they're not always smooth. And the pictures here that you see are actually roads from the reserve that we will be riding. They're a part of some of the rides. And there are things to pay attention to. There are gravel outflows like the one on the right, that come from homes or farms that will simply provide gravel on the road. And if you're riding on the right hand side there, you'll obviously be going that, and that can cause some issues. So you need to pay attention to that. There are definitely narrow single lane bridges. You want to pay attention to those things. And there is some traffic from farms, particularly for the orchards as we're getting into the fall season, where there's a lot more traffic on some of the roads like Sugarland, for example. Also, the reserve is rolling terrain. That means it's not flat. I have tried to pick for the shorter rides, less hilly routes, but it is rolling terrain. So I think we just want to be real careful about that. Ride etiquette. Please ride on the right-hand side of the road and in single file. I realize that the rules say you can go more abreast, but I recommend that we do single file, since we will have, particularly in the 17, 26-mile rides, my experience is we often have like 15, 20 people, which is great. But please keep single file and not in the middle and not meandering. That really affects us, particularly on some of the roads that have more high traffic, and we just want to ensure safety. Please observe all the traffic rules at all times. That's really important. And be respectful of property and people and animals at the rest stops in particular, because you'll see plenty of animals, certainly at one of the rest stops. Right, moving on. These are pictures that I took in the last 2 or 3 weeks of the kind of roads, just to give you an idea of the conditions of the roads. It was a lovely day. The heavy rain that we had the other day actually managed to clear off quite a bit of the gravel in some places, which was great. Now, assuming we don't get any of the heavy rain between now and the actual event, these roads are actually quite good. But this will give you an idea of the kind of roads we have. You'll see gravel, you'll see broken concrete, you'll see slabs, you'll see some narrow bridges. These are examples. And if anyone who can actually tell me what all of these pictures are, come up and tell me at the ride for the reserve, and I'll buy you a coffee at Locals, since these are all taken from various rides I've actually done fairly recently. All right, let's have a talk about the ride leader and sweep-based supported rides. These rides are for less experienced cyclists or more junior cyclists. So we have a ride, what we call the family ride, which is 5.3 miles. It's for children who are 7 and older, who are accompanied by a family or guardian with them. We ask that they do not ride alone. We also found that we had some novice riders who just really wanted to get back into riding and just enjoy a short ride. We encourage those people as well. We will have a ride leader who will be at the front of the ride, and the sweeps are the folks at the back who will be looking after it, making sure that everyone is progressing properly. These are all strong bike riders, and they are able to help you, give you encouragement, help you give directions, etc., etc. And they're there to help you, there to keep the ride safe. And we realize that it can get a bit spread out at times, so that we want to ensure that everyone is not lost and finds their way back. That is the purpose of those ride leaders and sweeps. They will also be available on the 17.7 and 26.2 mile rides, which will be for the adults only, and there'll be one rest stop, which I'll talk about a little bit later. I'll be leading probably the 17.7. For the adult rides, the 17.7 and the 26 seem to be quite popular rides, which is great. We have a lot of camaraderie with the people, and we'll ensure that people have a great and fun ride. As I mentioned before, the ride leaders and sweeps are really there to help guide the ride and keep it safe. So you'll see someone at the front, someone at the back, and depending on the size of the ride, we may have someone in the middle as well. You'll also see me probably going backwards and forwards on some of the rides just to make sure everyone is aligned on the ride and safe. For the self-guided rides, these are the longer rides. So this is the 30, the 41.3, and the 62.6. These do cover some high traffic road and intersections. These are all well marked on the cue sheets, which I'll describe and get a third one in, and I'll explain that in a little bit. Files and also ride with GPS links, which I'll talk about in a minute. These rides really are for the experienced cyclists. So let's talk a little bit about cue sheets. So cue sheets will be the cues of the ride, and they will be available to be downloaded by the ride registrants. We have a very limited amount of printed out sheets at the event and available on the day. I think there are some folks that like to just print it out and put it on your handlebar. If you're that kind of person, please download it beforehand and do that. We'll only have a few at the event. More and more people ride with bike computers. So I've pulled together the GPX files for all of the rides, and they'll be available for download as well for the registered ride registrants. The ride registrants will also receive a link to Ride with GPS, which is how I was using to generate a lot of these rides. The app is free from the Apple Store or Android App Store. You don't need a premium membership to access Ride with GPS for these rides, and you just please load it on your phone before you come to the event. We'll have some QR codes there, so you can just snap them and it will open Ride with GPS for whatever ride you particularly want. We'll have, and I'll explain in a minute, we'll have maps with QR codes. You can snap it and it will just load that ride on your phone, so you can use your phone for point-by-point direction if you don't want to use your computer head unit like a Garmin unit on a bike computer. So we've tried to sort of cover this for everybody so that you will have a way to have your cue sheets for the rides. This is obviously important for the long rides, for the non-ride lead sweep rides, those longer rides, but cue sheets will also be available for the shorter rides for people that want them. We just want to be comprehensive about that. Let's talk a little bit about rest stops. The rest stops will have water, local fruit, and cookies, and there'll be bathrooms. The cookies are from locals, and you'll find them at the rest stop with locals. I can highly recommend them. I've eaten them way too many times, which makes you want to ride even more because they're just delicious. Highly recommend them. They sell out very quickly, but they've been very kind to provide them to us. They will give you energy to come back. You'll last somewhere between 8 and 15 miles. You will ride on the cloud with those cookies, but they're rather delicious. So thank you again to Locals Farm Market. They're located in downtown Poolsville. I've got some pictures here of them. All rides except the 6 mile, which is actually 5.3, I haven't changed this, is for the family ride, will stop at Locals. So everyone will go through Locals. And last year we had a great meeting outside. You'll see the table outside at Locals, which will have all of the snacks and water. If people want to go inside and get a coffee, there is a bathroom there as well. You can do that. But for some of the rides that I was leading, I try and have a 10-minute stop, and I really want to get going after that. So it can be quite busy at Locals these days, which is great. But just keep in mind that we're trying to keep the rides together, and we'll probably stop between 10 and 15 minutes at most. This is in order to keep everyone together and also get back in time so that we can have the picnic starting on time and everyone back there. The other rest stop is Old Buck Lodge Lane, which is an active farm, Stonefield Farm, and it is a working horse farm, and it is hosted by Ann Davies, who's a longtime resident of the reserve and a Montgomery County Alliance board member. She's wonderful. She's very friendly. There are a lot of horses there. It's a beautiful property. I've just, the actual photographs here on the right are from her property. And she will be hosting the stops for the longer rides. The shorter rides will not go through there, so she'll get the self-guided rides will go through those. As I mentioned before, the rest stops are run by our local residents of the reserve or their active businesses or farms. Please respect the property and animals and people. There are quite a few around, especially at Ann's property, and all of the rest stops will be outdoors. So let's move now closer to the actual rides themselves and the event. So we ask that check-in starts at 7:45 a.m. in the Red Barn. So I've taken a picture here, and with the nice arrow, that is the Red Barn. For those of you who came last year, The Red Barn, you can go in there and you'll find Christina and myself and others for the registration desk, and a lot of goodies will be in there as well. Just reminding everyone to please leave your bike at your car at check-in if you possibly can. We do appreciate that may not always be true. It just helps with congestion at where the check-in is. So if you could do that, we would certainly appreciate it. Choosing your ride route. You can decide the route on the day, as we mentioned before. So choose what you want. We will have a map of each ride. We'll display it on the barn wall. We did that last time and we found it to be very, very effective. And your friendly ride leader, myself, look for the Aussie, and you'll find me in there. And there were lots of questions around, what does the route look like? Are there any hills? Where are the hills? Tell me about the ride. I can answer all of those. I've ridden every single road more than at least 15 or 20 times, if not probably a lot more. And I've certainly ridden all of them in the last 3 to 5 weeks. So I can do my best to help you understand the roads, the road conditions, and what you might be wanting to ride. I can help tailor the ride, help you choose the ride that you would want to do that will be best for you on the day. For the ride leader and sweep rides, which are the 17.7 and 26.2 miles, please check in 30 minutes prior to departure of your ride and assemble at the Ren Bar 10 minutes before departure. That seemed to work with us really well. I'll be there calling people out for that time. You'll recognize me with my lovely American accent. I'll be calling people to order, so you'll be easily finding me. For the self-guided rides, we ask that you please don't leave before 8 a.m. There are no goodies at the stops. We have to set up those stops, and if you leave too early, we won't have a chance to set those up. So please, we realize that you want to do those rides. They are longer, but if you, we ask that you don't leave before 8 a.m. Just a few additional things. Start of the rides. So if you're going to do the longer rides, which are the self-guided guides, please start at between 8 and 10. That'll give you enough time to come back. Obviously, if you're going to start after 10 o'clock and do the 62-mile ride, either you have an e-bike or you're ready for the Tour de France, or you won't make it back in time. So please adjust accordingly. Maybe you're a Tour de France rider we don't know, and that we will certainly welcome you. Please don't leave before 8 a.m. simply because the rest stops won't be ready, as we mentioned before. The shorter rides, which have the ride leaders and sweeps, will come at these times. At 9:30, we'll start the 26.2. At 10 o'clock, we'll start the 17.7. And the 10:30, we'll have the 5.3 family ride. We're staggering those so that it just helps us get people off at different times. And obviously the longer rides take longer to come back, so that we'll all come back together for the picnic, which will start at 11 o'clock and it goes to about 3 p.m. So let's get to the routes. So I'm going to go through the routes here. I'm not going to give you turn-by-turn directions, but if there are questions in the chat, I'm more than happy to address them. If you have specific questions of the roads, particularly if you're familiar with the roads, happy to address them. So I'm going to give you a general overview. I'm going to give you some areas of caution. I'm going to talk about the hills for the shorter rides because people often ask me about those, and a little bit about the rest stops where they are. As I mentioned before, I've actually ridden all of these roads in the last 3 weeks, or I've actually driven them in the car, but primarily I've ridden them because it's a lot easier to see them from a cyclist perspective. The map at the top here is actually all of the routes all together. So it gives you an idea of how far we're going out into the reserve. And I think, Christina, you have them up on Ride with GPS and you'll see this general ride. So it gives you an idea where we're at the reserve. Just as a general sort of organization from this map that you can see up in the top right-hand corner, most of the shorter rides will be to the lower left. That's the flatter part of the county. It has more sort of less hilly sections. It's closer to the river. That's one of those reasons. The longer rides will go further north towards Sugarloaf, which tend to get a whole lot hillier. I know this particularly because I live fairly close to Sugarloaf, so I'm very used to the hills and appreciate them greatly on Sunday mornings. All right, route details, a little bit of the legends on the maps that I'm going to show you, and also you'll see them yourself when you, if you go into Ride with GPS, you'll see them as well. So these are just signs that I've used. You'll see a lot of these caution signs. I've probably been a little conservative here, but I really want people to be safe. I've marked intersections, I've marked high traffic roads, narrow bridges, and narrow roads. There are times, particularly on Martinsburg Road, where it really narrows down before it gets to a bridge. You often see that. There's also some steep ascents and descents, not part of the shorter rides, and I've marked those all with the caution sign. Sometimes I've also marked the road surface conditions. This relates to either gravel or concrete slabs or rough roads. And I've got some pictures here on the side here, which shows the kind of things you're going to see. The gravel will be on the side, and sometimes it actually goes right across the road, and it can be quite, it's not super deep, but it can make you slide, particularly if you're coming down from a downhill section, more so than if you're going uphill. The other thing we have in the county is these concrete slab roads that have a concrete center, and then there's sort of a tarmac side, and I've shown it here in the bottom picture. Sometimes it's smarter to ride on the side of the road there than try and, a lot of people naturally go into the concrete, but it's actually sometimes smoother to be actually on the side of the road there than not, certainly when cars are coming by. I've marked all of those, and there are quite a few of them in the county, so I've actually marked those. Sometimes there are rough roads. There are certain sections of Peachtree that haven't been repaved, and I've just marked those as well, and they can be pretty rough, particularly when you're going down and up hills, and they're almost a lot of potholes. Where appropriate, I've marked hills. It just helps you understand that, you know, you get to the top of the hill and it doesn't go on forever. It sort of marks those out, and obviously the rest stops. Right, so let's talk a little bit about the rides. So this year's family ride is 5.3 miles. The top point here, I think you can see my pointer here. This is the starting point, which is in Martinsburg. It'll be 5.3 miles in length. It's for children 7 and older with family members or guardians that will ride with them, but we also encourage novice riders. We had some last year people who were just wanting to get back into fitness, and we encourage that. We'd love to see you. We will have ride leaders and sweeps supported here, and this ride will be, as I said, 5.3 miles. It will stop at one of the local residences, which is a farm, and we'll have a turnaround point marked very clearly there. But thank you to the group there who's provided the endpoint for us. Otherwise, it's a little hard to find that. And it's what I would describe it is, for those who do ride, who'll be the family members here, it's about 250 feet of elevation total. So it's undulating rather than hilly. But, you know, if you're a novice rider and you're younger, sometimes that can be, you know, a pretty good ride. But we've tried to keep it fairly mellow. There's only one intersection here, and we'll have it clearly marked on the road. And we may also, depending on time and volunteers, have someone there just to ensure that there is complete safety here, certainly for our junior riders. The 17.7 mile ride last year was really popular, and I think it was a good length for folks that really have an average level of fitness and are wanting to enjoy some rides. So this ride is adults for only adults. We do, if you want, I think 16 and up, but please, we want you to have an adult if you're 16. 18 and above is obviously an adult. It will have a ride, lead, and sweep. Last year I rode this length ride roughly, and I'll probably be taking it again this year, so I'll be the ride lead. Meant for an average fitness person. There are a few hills. There are not many hills, but there are some, and the stop will be at locals here. This ride really essentially comes down from Martinsburg, which is where we'll be up here. My apologies, my computer just changed. We'll start at Martinsburg, which is where the square is up the top. We'll go south towards the river, and we'll make a circuit back through to Poolsville, have a short stop there. And that seemed to be a good stop for folks that haven't ridden that much. And then we essentially do a circuit and come back. There's only, I think, 2 hills on here that take some significant work, but none of it is particularly bad. I think it's a total of about 600 or 700 feet of elevation. So again, undulating, not particularly hilly. For the 26-mile ride, again, this is an adult ride. Again, ride leader and sweep supported. This is really meant for a more reasonably fit cyclist, people who know how to ride and want to do a decent length ride, but we do encourage people with, you know, stronger fitness here. And there are hills. They're not particularly steep, but there are hills. It's about 1,195 feet of elevation. So it's considerably steeper than the other places. The hills are marked on here. They're not very long. They're about 4 to 5% max. They're not very long, but there are a few of those here. The rest stop here is at mile 19.2, and it's through Poolsville, and again, it does a circuit. The other thing I want to point out this year, if I can get my pointer here, this intersection here, because it intersects with the 17-mile ride, we had a few people sort of trying to figure out which ride they were on. We'll do a better job this year of putting out markers to show the direction of certain rides, so that you won't get lost and you'll have a better idea of the actual ride itself. It's simply at this point here where there's a short hill here, and it's right at this really interesting intersection between almost the 4 different roads. Once people got past that, they were really pretty good, and it's not a problem at all. Last thing about this ride goes right down to the river, and for those people who know it, this is quite a steep downhill section down here. It can get quite wet simply because it's quite close to the river, and as far as I saw it about 2 weeks ago, I haven't seen it after the heavy rains. It was actually pretty good. There was not a lot of debris on the road, but there is a caution here as you come down the road. It's 3 sections of the road that go down quite steeply. If you're taking it at pace and then you have a 90-degree turn at the end, please take caution there, particularly if we get any rain in the next week, which goes back to bike safety. Make sure your brakes actually work. So the 34-mile ride, we're now getting into self-guided rides. So this means we'll have the cue sheets, either ones you can download and print yourself, or you can use GPX files, or you can download the actual route on Ride with GPS. This is really meant for fit cyclists who ride a lot. There are lots of rolling hills here. It's 1,745 feet of elevation, so you're starting to get up there in terms of, it's not very high for someone who rides a lot, but it will certainly be a lot for someone that doesn't ride a great deal. It will cover some high traffic roads. There are 2 rest stops on this particular ride. They're marked here. One is at Old Buck Lodge and the other one is at Locals. They're about they're well spaced out. The biggest caution I would say on this one is you're going to be going through Route 28. You're going from Martinsburg out towards Route 28 for a section of it. You're going up Big Woods, and then you're going to go Bealsville Road, which are these sections here that are all marked in caution. That can have a fair amount of high traffic, and there's a couple of really narrow sections of that, but you are going downhill rather than going uphill. And it's a relatively short section. But again, fit riders and people that ride a lot will understand this, and those road conditions will suit fine. The 41-mile ride is a bigger loop. So this again is a self-guided ride, again meant for fit cyclists here. Many rolling hills here. It's 2,217 feet of elevation change. There will be again some high traffic roads, so we just ask you to be really careful. They are all marked on the cue sheets and marked on the maps. 2 rest stops again at mile 15.2 and 26.6. The Old Buck Lodge, which is Ann Davies' farm, the horse farm, is at 15.2, and Locals is obviously in Poolsville. Now, last year, a couple of folks asked us why we did, this road goes down 28 and up Mount Ephraim and does Comus in reverse. The reason why I did it this way was simply because if you start going later down Comus Road after about 11 o'clock, that's where the wineries are. And there's about 3 or 4 of them, and people also go to Sugarloaf for climbing, and that road gets incredibly busy. So as much as I prefer to go the other route, the other direction, I've chosen this one for the purposes of safety. We get past it before the times of the roads that get really trafficked. I live actually fairly close to that, and I do this route fairly regularly. And if I'm there before 10:30, 11 in the morning, it's usually pretty good for traffic. After that, you just get a lot of traffic. So that's the reason we did it in reverse. That was a question that was asked of me many times last year. And I just want to point out why we did it. There are certain limitations that we have, and I think, but one of the key things we want to do is ensure safety for our cyclists and for people to enjoy the event. So the last route is the 62.6 mile. This is a self-guided ride, and this is meant for very fit cyclists. Please don't undertake this ride if you are not fit and able to do this. It has many rolling hills, and it has over 3,000 feet of elevation change. Again, it has some high traffic roads as well, and it has the 2 rest stops that I mentioned before. Now, I also pointed out that at mile 56, you come back into town, into Poolsville, so you could do a detour into Poolsville and get another quick stop at Locals if you want. This ride took me a while to think through. Again, we tried to avoid going up, for those people who ride a lot, we could have gone up to Park Mills and up through Flint Hill. Problem there is there's a lot of traffic these days, and I wanted to avoid it. So this is a series of loops, essentially. And what it gives you also, if you choose to do this route, you could bail, particularly if you've got a computer head unit that you can get turn-by-turn directions back to Martinsburg or Poolsville. So there are options in this route to make it shorter if you want to, But that loop within a loop also allows you to have potentially a third stop at mile 56 to go back to locals if you want a quick pit stop, grab something to drink, grab something to eat. We'll have the stops ready for all of the entire ride there, so we'll do that. Again, I know they're highly marked up. These routes, they're really just my being very conservative and ensuring that you understand safety and see all of the road conditions, etc., etc. You can certainly see them on the cue sheets. They'll all be marked up for you, so at least you have a knowledge of those roads as best as you can. I think my last slide is back here, which is the ride for the reserve where we actually start. So we start and finish at this point. Again, the red barn, which is just behind those green gates straight back, is where Christina will be and the other folks for check-in. I'll be in there as well with those large maps that Christina put together last year that were fabulous. And they were a great place for us to have a discussion. I can help you pick the ride that you want to do that day, discuss the roads. I will have ridden them quite a bit in the next week as well. So I'll be looking at the road conditions. And our goal is to give you the safest, most fun ride in the reserve in a way that really suits your level of skill and level of interest and what you want to do that day. We want people to have a good time and enjoy it and come back and enjoy the picnic. So with that, I'll close and I'll give it back to Christina. Thank you.
Just want to thank you so much, Vivian, for all that you do. You've said it's Tetris, and it definitely is putting it all together. At this point, I'd just love to open it to anybody before we close that has questions. And if you'd like to add those to the chat, or you can raise your hand or unmute. We'd welcome any questions you have.
Thanks, Jeffrey, for the applause.
Want to reiterate that this will be recorded, and in speaking to folks watching the recording, it is, it will be time stamped. Just saw, Amy, thank you. Is there a rain plan? Well, we've ordered very nice weather, like we do. We will not run a ride that we feel is less than safe. And we pledge to that morning assess the situation, whatever the weather will be, and get in touch with riders usually by 5:30 that day at the latest. Weather is sometimes an evolving thing. We have held just the picnic when it has rained in the past. It is our sense we can do that again, but that will completely depend on the weather situation. But because we're talking about it, then we won't have to deal with it. So thank you. Where and when will we see the ride with GPS routes posted on the web? Thank you, Hunt. I will be putting out the ride with GPS this year. I want to reiterate what Vivian said. As you download that app, we will be sending you an invite to the event, and you do not need the professional or any sort of premium ride with GPS. The free one is fine. It is free for you. So just download that app and ignore their upselling you. I will be sending out that link tomorrow to all registered riders. And it will be in the automatic email that you get as you register. So if you'd like to register tomorrow, that will come to you. Folks don't have to use that turn-by-turn option. It is very useful. I will say we love people to just take a cue sheet in case, your battery dies. There's some spotty internet in the Ag Reserve. We're infamous for that. So just have different options is not a bad idea. Anything else out there?
I will actually say one thing that I forgot to mention, and it's been, it was sort of what Carolyn said. So I live in the reserve. That's a picture behind me of where I actually live. And there are absolutely lots of deer around sooner this year. They tend to be around very early in the day, very late in the day. So I've definitely seen what Carolyn said. The other thing I've noticed is the fall has arrived a little earlier this year. I've noticed that and where it really impacts us is the leaves on the ground. So there is still not a lot of accumulation of leaves, which is really good, but there are some spots that it can be a little damp and do have leaves. So we just need to be a little careful when we're riding. But it's that time of year. You always get a few leaves on the ground. It just happens to be a little sooner this year than not. But again, the routes that I rode 2 days ago, it's not too bad. They're really accumulated on the side. There's not a lot in the middle of the road.
Vivian, I'm going to let you answer this one. Did I see somewhere that we need to bring a pump and an inner tube? Asks Amy.
I don't think we'd said that, but it is always a good idea to have. We will have pumps at the event. Bike Doctor has pumps. I always carry large pumps as well. If you need one, that's fine. I will carry a few extras that day anyway, in case people get flats. I'd recommend if you have one, bring it. I will certainly be carrying a pump with me on the ride so I can help people out. There will be people there. Bike Doctor will be able to pump it up. He has one of the big foot pumps and can really pump up your tires really quickly. Whatever tire you have, whether you have Presta or Schrader rails, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how big your tube is. He'll be able to do it.
Amy, I'm thinking that is a holdover from when we didn't have the wonderful Bike Doctor there at our start in prior years. And now that we do, it is less of a imperative for folks. Just also want to say that we do have 2 wonderful SAG drivers, that's support and gear. Those are folks that should you need a pickup for minor injuries, technical issues of any sort, you can call them and their numbers will be on those cue sheets and also on the Ride with GPS sort of portal, so that that is available to you. As we said, safety is really number 1, 2, 3, all the way through until we get to fun, all of it together.
One other thing, Amy. So you ride within a tube. Some people ride tubeless, probably the people doing the longer rides. Some of my bikes are tubeless. I will carry tubeless repair kits and I'll carry a tube as well. And I'm sure Bike Doctor, they deal with this all the time. So if you're riding tubeless or you're riding tubed, Bike Doctor will be able to handle it at the event. And I will make sure I bring some extra. But most people who ride longer rides usually carry their own kit. I would certainly recommend that, but I'll carry some extras as well in people in case they need that. So feel free to ride tube or tubeless.
I have a note also. I had a very nice conversation today with Captain Jensen of the Montgomery County Police. They have our routes. They have some of their officers that'll be in the general area that'll be sort of milling about as they can. So just know that there'll be, some eyes on the roads and conditions and so forth available from Montgomery County Police.
All right.
Looking at the clock and it is nearly 8. I just wanted to make sure everyone got all of their questions answered. If you still have some after you've those folks on the recording, if you still have questions, info@mocoalliance.org. We will get you sorted out. And I just want to thank folks so much for coming out and folks watching this on the recording. There are very few fall weekends and you're deciding to spend one of them with us. And that means a lot. The Ag Reserve really is going to show up and show out for you for making that choice. So thank you. We appreciate you all and we're looking forward to a really great ride. So thank you.
Thanks to all.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Bye. Have a great evening.
Bye.
Bye.